Hey y'all, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is Bodice Tipplers,
the podcast where we read all the books we used to steal off our grandmother's nightstands.
And then we drink about it. Hey y'all, it's Courtney. Sarah's not with us today. It's just me, but we have a special episode. We are with the author of Single and Forced to Mingle, Melissa Croce. The book comes out basically now. It comes out January 5th, so you need to go pick it up. Melissa is a Pacific Northwest native who left her beloved rainy region behind to work in children's publishing in New York. When she's not working, she can be found sleeping, reading tarot cards, I love that, watching hockey games, and spending way too much time on the internet, which is how Single and Forced to Mingle initially came to be. You can find her on Twitter at Melissa Croce. And we will definitely have links to her Twitter and all that stuff too, so make sure that y'all check that out. All right, so Melissa, how are you?
You know, I'm going to call myself what a friend told me as pandemic fine, which is to say as good as someone can be while living during a pandemic.
Right. I feel like that is the new answer. We're all just that little dog with the fire, and we're just like, yeah, it's okay. This is fine.
This is fine. This might as well happen. So yeah, that's me. How are you?
I too am pandemic fine. So that's about the same. And it's got to be weird because, yeah, like this is a super exciting time for you. Mm-hmm. You know, you got a book published, and then it's like you can't go do all the fun publishing things for it, you know? Like, so that's got to be a little bit different.
Yeah, it is very strange for sure. You know, yeah, it would have been really fun to have an event in person with all of my friends and family. So that is a bummer. I wish I could, you know, celebrate this moment in person with them and, you know, talk to, you know, people who are not my friends and family about this book in person. It would have been so much fun. But, you know, on the other hand, I feel like, you know, having virtual events is sort of like a great equalizer because, you know, your reach can potentially be, you know, bigger since you're not confined by like, you know, geographical restraints. So I'm trying to look at like that silver lining of things. But yeah, it's definitely, I think, a very, very strange time to have a book come out for sure.
Yeah. And that's super true. Like, you know, that you get to talk to people in various parts of the country versus just regional. So that is a fun aspect. And again, once we're all vaccinated, you can have a big, like, you know, summer party, hopefully. Fall.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So this book came about because you just sort of created a online, like a brochure for your friends because you were basically getting tired of all the family coming up and asking you about dating at big family parties, right? So, and it kind of went viral on Twitter. And that's amazing. And I also think this has to be really fun for two reasons. One, you have a book published. And so your family's obviously very, very proud of you. But also it's kind of like, haha, I published a book based on you guys, you know, essentially hounding me into publishing the book. So maybe they won't ask you. Maybe this is now just like you can give out copies.
Oh, know? Right. Absolutely. No, there actually is a section in there on like etiquette at weddings specifically. Yes. So not that I like call out people, but you know, I have some of it is based on behavior that I have seen at, you know, whether it's weddings or, you know, family reunions or, you know, you name it basically. So, but yeah, no, that's how it came about. I was going back home for my cousin's wedding. And, you know, I knew there was going to be a lot of people I hadn't seen in a while. And obviously, like, we both know that, you know, when people ask these questions, they usually don't mean any harm. But, you know, sometimes it kind of is like, you know, no matter what answer you give, that's not a good enough answer. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know what you want me to say. So that's kind of how the brochure came about, sort of just like a very tongue-in-cheek, like, you know, here, choose your own adventure. Like, you choose the answer you want to hear. And I'll just be here, like, drinking my fifth glass of wine or something in the corner.
Exactly. Yeah, people have this, I think, it's this innate whatever to want to fix what they, you know. And it can be like there's a part in there where you're talking about, and I loved it because I'd seen it at, you know, an actual family member's funeral where like somebody shows up in like the dirty, ratty tank top with the baby on their arm, just like wild now. And everybody's like, oh, they've got such a nice family. And you're like, are you serious? It is a disaster. Because it is interesting. It kind of, obviously I don't know what it's like to be, I've been married for a while, but I do get a lot of, and it's kind of died down lately, but a lot of, so when are you guys going to have kids? So it's kind of, there's, it doesn't ever go away.
No, it really doesn't. And then I'm sure it's like if you have your first kid, it's like, oh, are you going to have more? And then it's just like this cycle continues. So honestly, for me, it was, obviously the book is about being single, but, I think it kind of stemmed from a place of like, respecting people's choices in life, just, and I think I wanted people to, obviously this is a very humorous book, but, to be serious, it's like, you don't know what's happening in someone's life. I always think about too, like, like celebrities like Gabrielle Union who were so open about, like her fertility struggle. It's like, you don't know when you're asking somebody like why they don't have kids. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know, maybe they're trying.
Exactly.
So, I have people be a little more thoughtful and sort of using humor to sort of, diffuse that subject into being something less preachy, but hopefully, having some sort of thought-provoking, aspect to it regardless. But yeah, no, I feel like the questions never end. It's a continual question of like asking people's, what their choices in life are. And, if they're not following a super, traditional.
Right. Your life would be amazing, but if you don't have, the nuclear, what people think. So, and for our listeners, you guys totally should get it, even if you are in a relationship, married, because it does. You can kind of take parts of it. And again, it's really funny. And like the whole MASH part, which we'll get into, was my favorite. But you don't have to be single to enjoy this book, because I think that, like I said, there's a lot of things that you can be like, oh yeah, this kind of reminds me when people ask me about this or that. So I would suggest it for married and, single people. So yeah, I loved the Halloween costumes ideas for a single person. The woman in the Hallmark movie killed me. So you can be a woman in a Hallmark movie, put on your smart most generic work clothes, get a blowout of loose waves, and put on pretty but non-threatening makeup. Carry around a planner in a purse and say things like, "I'm just a city girl coming to the country to close down this inn, and any cute lumberjack countryman can get out of my way. Nothing will stop me." So it's filled with stuff like that, and I love it. And then there was an updated MASH, and I got so excited because sometimes I feel like people forget about the awesomeness that was MASH, and before the internet, that's what you just did. You just played MASH for hours on end.
Yes, on the original BuzzFeed quiz. The original BuzzFeed quiz really was MASH.
And there's even a space for the magic swirl, which I was like, yes, this is amazing.
I'm so glad you liked it. That was throwing it way back to the slumber party days.
Yeah. The cat who tolerates you, your minimum wage. It's just, it's very much based in reality. There's another portion where you can pick your fake boyfriend based on the benefits package that you want. I got an Alex. I feel like an Alex is very much like, what was his name in St. Elmo's Fire, the Judd Nelson character. I feel like that's wearing a blazer, and who was slightly radical in college, but then started working for the Republican senator because of the benefits.
Yeah. Oh yeah, too real.
Right? I think we've all dated an Alex. But I think we've dated all of them, We've dated a Chris, the guy that you met at a hockey game, a Devin who was in yoga class. I love it, I think everybody can relate to these because they're so just...
Yeah, there's something I wanted to make it so there was something for everybody there.
Yeah, it's so fun. So you did I guess kind of just you did the brochure, and then you had it kind of blew up on Twitter, and then you just were like, hey, I can make this into a book. How was it writing a book?
Yeah, it kind of, that definitely helped, but yeah, there was also a lot of other media pickup around it, and that definitely helps for anyone who wants to sell a book, using any of those accolades possible. It was a very non-traditional way to get published. I want to make that very clear. I definitely is not a traditional experience for sure. yeah, it was one of those things where, I work in publishing. And so I had, friends and colleagues who were like, you could make this into a book. And, for me, I was like, I'm happy to take my like 2.5 seconds of fame and just, you know what I mean? Like have this be like my party trick or something. But they really encouraged me to develop the idea. And so I submitted a proposal. I wrote a few sample chapters, and, it all happened to work out. And then I spent, I had the remainder of the year to write the rest of the book. So it was a really interesting process, like trying to, I think probably the hardest part was trying to strike that tone of, someone who, is trying to deliberately be funny, which is like very hard. Mm-hmm. While still, hopefully peppered in there is some, hopefully good advice without, again, like being preachy about it. But still including, like coming up with fun things like, like the MASH game or the quizzes or what have you. So honestly, I really just tried to like vary it up by different sorts of mediums. Like, honestly, I looked in a lot of like issues of Cosmo. I looked on BuzzFeed. I kind of was like, okay, what are certain mediums I can play with? And then how can I, make that into something that's my own, something that will fit in with the general theme of the book. So I kind of just would like think of ideas and jot them down in my notes app. And then I would kind of plan out about like how long each section was going to be. And then I sort of just wrote each section as it came in. And I submitted it to my editor. And then later on, in our edits, then we took every individual section and then we kind of were like, okay, how can we place these together in themes, and then how to arrange those themes in the book. So it kind of, I would say, came together sort of piecemeal as opposed to like a traditional novel. So that's probably how it's different in a lot of ways from other books. Not like other books, even though it kind of is.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it is I mean, obviously it's really funny, but I do think it's got a lot of good points because like we were saying, you can be totally happy and have this awesome life, but then when you go to these events, a lot of times like all the things that you're doing gets nullified by people, and it's just sort of like you're not really being seen, and that can be incredibly frustrating and incredibly, your life is basically to them based on one answer, are you with someone versus hey, I just went and did this great thing, hey, I just had I mean, back when you could go do great things, but I just traveled, I got this new job promotion, and it's like, oh, well, are you seeing anyone? And if you're not seeing anyone, then it's like, what's the point to any of it? And I think that that's a really good approach. And I like seeing, usually when we have people who are, there's a part in there where you talk about leaning into spinsterhood, which made me laugh too, because, usually that's when it's only acceptable that we've seen in kind of media before is, either over the top, like sexually aggressive, which is great, kind of characters, or the women that have just like, oh, she's been single but she's old. She's out of any kind of, we can't look at her as a sexual being anymore because she's old. So I think it is important to have kind of this pro, singlehood media out there. It doesn't always have to be, we love our romance novels and we love our romance Hallmark movies, but you don't always have to end up with somebody to be happy.
No, absolutely. You're so right. And I also wanted to make sure in this book that I wasn't like anti-relationship either. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want it to be like, I'm a, like, I say that I'm happy, like I protest too much, but I'm really like bitter. Like, that's not what this was. I feel like there's a couple sections where I definitely like poke fun of people in relationships, but I never wanted it to be like, it's like an us versus them thing. And, when I wrote the intro too, I know a lot of people don't read it, but I wanted to state too, I was like, you know what, this book is for people who are happy being single. This book is for people who are single and wish they weren't. Like, I don't think that there's any shame in not wanting to be single, if you like being in relationships, but I don't think that inherently being single means that you are unhappy either. So I wanted to make that really clear.
It reminds me of this. There was an episode, such a dork, of the Mindy Project, the Mindy Kaling show.
Yes.
Where she goes on this retreat and Reese Witherspoon's there in her mind, but there's this really, like, that's not the point of it. I get distracted. But there was a part where she's talking to this elderly woman who whose husband had passed away. And the woman was talking about, you know, like essentially all you really have in life is yourself. So be your own best friend. And I think that's a really, I wish more people took this approach, because a lot of people get in relationships just to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're not in it because that person does anything like, you know, helps complete them or anything. But it's just, you know, well, I'd rather not be alone versus being your own best friend, so to speak.
Absolutely. You know, also, you know, to be like fully transparent, I love rom-coms. I love to read them. I love to watch them. I'm obsessed with them. I know that might be strange, like considering, but I love them. And there's this one book that I read. It's called The Bookish Life of Nina Hill by Abby Waxman. And I consider this one of the most romantic lines I've ever read. So the protagonist, as you can imagine, bookish life. So she's pretty introverted. She works in a bookstore. She loves books. She loves to be alone. But she does have a love interest. And at one point she tells him, like, her declaration to him is that, you know, being with you is just as good as being by myself. And for me, I was like, that is so deeply romantic. I love that so much.
I love that too. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And I think that is, I don't know. I'm glad to see people kind of embracing this, because I think a lot of times people were with somebody, you know, because until Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you know, women couldn't get credit cards, you know, things like that. Right. So you were with somebody essentially by force just to coexist. And now it's, just be with the person that completes you, that like makes you as happy as you are on your own. So I'm gonna have to get that book. That sounds amazing.
Oh, it is. It is very, like, the voice is very fun. I can't recommend it enough. I really liked that book. So I could talk about rom-coms for hours, but I know we're talking about the exact opposite now.
Well, no, it's so funny to go back and watch, like, some of these rom-coms that were you just gobbled up, especially, like, for me, like, when I was, you know, probably late teen, or, you know, like, mid to late teens, that kind of, and now you watch them and you're like, oh my God, this is problematic as hell. Like, what are you doing?
Gosh. Yes, there's so many that do not hold up that I loved as a teenager. It is tragic.
Like, you're like, this person is trash. Just throw this guy away. Like,
yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, there were so many things that were so problematic. So based on, like, you know, if a guy pulls your pigtails, it means he likes you. Like, no, thank you. I don't like that.
He basically, like, he's like, you know, psychologically tortures you. Again, I'm on this Judd Nelson kick. Like, you know, when The Breakfast Club first came out, I was like, well, when I first saw it, I was like, this is romance. I'm like, that guy is awful. You know, just completely terrible to her. Just I became much more team the kind of goth girl and Allison and Andy as I got older. But
yep, the opposites attract in a different way.
Yes. And so, but I think it's kind of interesting, you know, we've been fed these movies and these problematic relationships. And again, like, you know, Sarah and I, what we discuss a lot are older romance novels. So books that have like insane sexual violence between the two characters. And, you know, they're supposed to have this loving relationship, or just so much gaslighting and things. So it's kind of interesting to see how that shaped us, and how, you know, when we have better portrayals of stuff for, you know, girls coming up now, like how that's going to shape them. So girls and guys, because everybody loves a romance.
Yes, exactly. No, that's nice to think about, hopefully, with all of the new, like the modern romance, you know, even if it's, you know, takes place in like Regency. But I feel like writers these days are doing such a great job.
They really are. Yeah.
Exploring that for sure.
You know, showing, especially, I think one of the things I've really been enjoying is, you know, some of the authors, you know, kind of taking away the whitewashing of Regency era, like England, you know, like not everybody in the 1800s was just white. So I think that's super important.
I agree. I don't know about you, but I am so psyched for the Bridgerton series that'll be on Netflix on Christmas. Oh my God. I am psyched about that.
I am so obsessed. I've been, like, it's crazy because Sarah, my co-host, she hasn't really read any of them. I'm like, you're insane. You have to read all of them before it comes out. So I am literally counting down the days. And that's the other thing, like, in a lot of, come on. I mean, I know Hallmark can't, but Netflix, when you give us a romance, like a holiday romance, you can put some sex in there. Like we're not gonna fall apart, if you make it just beyond a G kiss. So
right, like just like a steamy makeout scene. I'm not asking for like too much. Like I still want to be able to like watch this like movie with my grandma or something, but like.
Right.
Give us something, or like, even if you can't, like, Pride and Prejudice, like you can give me some looks, you can give me some hand touching, like, you can make it subtle, just like, dial it up.
Some allusions to something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of, our romance novels. So we thought it would be fun to, we found my questions. We thought, since you have so much, you have all these, like this great advice, we thought it would be fun for you to give a couple of advice ideas for, give advice to our heroines that we've had in our books. So like, what do you do if your potential suitor has a murderous ex? Like, how do you navigate that?
Oh God. Oh my God. Like a sort of Jane Eyre thing, except I think Mr. Rochester was like really the villain here, but we don't have time to go into all of that.
Throw away. And I thought he was so hot, and he's just a trash bag person.
Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, it really is a shame. I think I read Jane Eyre for the first time, I don't know, maybe like 5 years ago. And, I really, really enjoyed it. I think the writing is obviously stunning, but I was just, the way my, people I knew talked about it, I was really expecting some sort of Mr. Darcy character. Yeah. And instead I was just like, we all just think he's hot because Michael Fassbender played him recently. Like, that's what's happening here, right? Like, it's not.
He kept a whole ass woman locked up in an attic.
I mean,
like that is some problematic situation.
It really is. Getting back to the murderous ex question, I mean, okay, I'm like, it's hard for me to be like a one and done advice. I have to know more. I have to know, like, how is this person like dealing with the murderous ex? Like, are they in, you know what I mean? Like, are they in denial? Are they like, oh no, babe? It's like,
usually what happens is our heroine is blonde and our rival is brunette. Absolutely. And the guy never sees it. No. And he's like, oh, you're being ridiculous. You're being ridiculous, until, our heroine ends up on a ledge, kind of, hanging there. So that's usually the par for the course on how that goes.
Right. I mean, I had to ask, even though I figured you were going to say that, because that you need to let him go. There is, like, the dick can't be that good. You know what I mean? Like, that's not worth getting murdered over. Okay.
No man is worth getting murdered for. Like,
no man is worth getting murdered for. I don't care who he is. I don't care if it's Chris Evans. I don't care if it's Oscar Isaac. Yeah. I don't care if it's John Cho. I don't care if it's Idris Elba. No man, absolutely 0.0 men worth you getting murdered. So you run, you get out of there. You say, you two deserve each other. Goodbye. You can have him.
I like it. And then what was our other one was how to navigate a case of mistaken identity when you're kidnapped by someone as a single woman. So usually what happens in this one, a lady's just minding her own business and just gets scooped up off the docks and taken to another continent. And our hero is usually a ship captain / gentleman. And, he essentially thinks that she is some lowbrow lady until circumstances.
Right. I mean, you just have to, like, if he's truly a gentleman, then you need to, like, gain his trust somehow. And even if he thinks you're a lowbrow lady, you know what I mean? Like, if he's a gentleman and he's chivalrous, like, he will want to help you out and, like, protect your virtue. You know what I mean? So, definitely cozy up to him. Maybe you can, since I'm sure, he's seen some things, maybe ask if he can, like, give you some sword lessons just for fun. That's a good one, yeah. Right? Because I'm sure he's handy with a blade, and you can just, like, appeal to his sense of like, I'm sure his, like, heightened masculinity, and just be like, oh, I'm sure you're so big and strong. Like, can you show me how you wield a sword? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But actually literally, not even metaphorically. Because, you're going to have to take matters into your own hands, befriend his crew. I'm sure there's some, like, lovable side characters who, will really take you under their wing, learn knot tying and untying from them, because I'm certain you will need that skill in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
yeah, think about skills that you can learn on a ship that would be applicable to, I don't know, getting out of like your hands being tied or like, you know, that sort of a thing. So that would be,
you can just, you know, bulk your resume up a little bit too while you're being kidnapped. You can have like ship skills to it.
Yes, ship skills that can double as getting out of being kidnapped skills. Like, you know, these guys are like rough and tumble guys who have like seen some things. So, you know, ply them with some beer, ask them some stories, see what you can like soak up there, and, you know, get street smart, basically. To quote John Mulaney, street smart.
Street smart.
Street smart.
Okay, random questions. These are, you know, because I told some friends, I was like, it's going to just be me. And they're like, we'll give you random questions. We're like they do on the talk shows. Okay. All right, yes, so what was your favorite Halloween costume that you ever had? Your favorite Halloween costume?
Oh, I was a witch like 3 years in a row.
I like it.
Like, I wasn't, you know, I liked Halloween as a kid growing up, but it was never my favorite holiday, even though it had all the components I like about it. But, you know, my mom always bought my favorite candy. So I was like, why am I going around begging for candy when mom bought it at home? She already has the Twix and the Kit Kats.
Yeah, the Twix and the Kit Kats are the best of the candy.
They really are. My friends rag on me for not liking Reese's, but then I just tell them, I'm like, well, that means more for you. That means like if I ever get Reese's, I'll give it to you. So you should be happy. You should be thrilled that I don't like them.
Yeah.
But yes, I was a witch like 3 years in a row. So I was just like, you know what? This look works for me. Black, purple, fake spider webs on me. I think my mom would like hot glue, take a couple like plastic spiders and put them on. So that was my jam.
I like, you know what? I like it. Let's see. Let me see their other ones here. Okay. Oh, we had another one. If you could invite any 3 people, living or dead, to dinner, which one would have their fly open?
Which one would have their fly? Oh my God. Well, first I have to think about that. Okay. Well, all right. So I guess I should let you know who the 3 are. I know 2 immediately. It would be Sandra Oh and Carrie Fisher, which I'm sure should not surprise you since I feature them in my book.
Yes.
Who would the 3rd be? That's such a good question. You know what? I want Carly Rae Jepsen there just because I love her and we would need some music. I feel like she's so great.
She's like, you know, she's kind of like that sleeper pop person that a lot of people are like, oh, they like know the one song. And then she's got like this whole, I love all of her stuff. Okay.
Her stuff is so good. Listeners, please go check out Carly Rae Jepsen if you haven't. You think you know her. You're like, oh, I know Call Me Maybe. But like that is the tip of the iceberg. She is so delightful.
Jams all the way across. Yeah.
You know what? I mean, I feel like of the would Carrie Fisher's fly be down? I don't know about that. I know that whoever's fly would be down, she would not hesitate to tell them loudly that the fly would be down. Yeah. So I'll say that. Maybe Sandra Oh, because Sandra Oh is kind of like unpredictable, and I feel like she, you know, doesn't really care about some certain things like that. But who's to say? It could be me. Honestly, it might be me. No, it might be me, quite frankly. So I'll just say that. I'll say that, and Carrie Fisher will point it out. She'll point it out nicely, but loudly.
And then you have the best bar story of like the one time that you were at a dinner party and Carrie Fisher told you that your fly was down. Like that's a good bar story.
Absolutely. It would be the biggest honor of my life for Carrie Fisher to have told me that my fly was down. So
right. Okay. In the movie 9 to 5, you know the movie 9 to 5?
Right? Yes.
Okay. Are you a Dora Lee, which is the Dolly Parton character, Judy, which is Jane Fonda, or Violet, which is Lily Tomlin? Tomlin.
Oh man. Maybe Lily Tomlinson's character?
She's so good.
Huh?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna stick with that.
That's a good answer.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad.
I feel like I'm the drunk lady that's at her desk and is always just like at a girl. Like that would be
that could. I don't think that's like me all the time, but that is also me when I'm drunk. I become a hype woman when I'm drunk, like very affectionate.
Like at a girl. And then this one caused like we'll end with this one because this one ended up in a little bit of controversy. So, do you ever eat the stick in a fun dip? Like, in the Fun Dip trio, do you eat the stick or do you not eat the stick?
Wait, what is the stick? Wait, what? I don't think I've had a Fun Dip in years. What is the stick made out of?
The stick's sugar, and like you usually get it wet and you stick it into the powder and then you put the stick in your mouth and you just like, it's like a spoon but made of sugar.
Oh, I don't think so. Because I think by the end you're just like on a sugar high. You're like, I can't, you know what I mean? I feel like eating it would be like tipping you over from like, sugar rush to like sugar overload.
See, one of our friends, that was his thing.
Oh, I respect you if you do. Everyone's tolerance is different, but for me personally, I think it would, you know what I mean? I could just see myself waking up next day with like a sugar hangover, and that would be, that'd make me regret the whole experience, and I don't want that.
Yeah, see, we were divided. We were, some people are like, no, you just throw the stick out, and some of us are like, how could you throw the stick out? That's insane. So,
what side are you on?
I'm gonna eat the stick. Like, the stick is the conclusion for me. That lets me know that the Fun Dip time is over. I think it's like I have Fun Dip all the time. Like, it's probably been, like a decade at least since I've had one. But that's how I used to roll with the Fun Dip.
Right, the grand finale, if you will.
Yeah, it was. It was like, oh, okay, you're done with this now.
Fair enough.
So, all right, those were my random questions.
I love them.
Thanks. So, if you had to do a speed dating spiel on the book, your elevator pitch for our listeners, like to end with.
Oh boy!
Pretend that we're sitting there like across from each other. We're having like some really bad like house Chardonnay, looking at each other awkwardly, and you.
Oh man, but I would kill for that though. In these times, I would kill to sit across from a bar, drinking a subpar Chardonnay.
That way we're gonna have to, yes, in post-COVID times.
Yeah. Right, absolutely. Okay, so elevator pitch, Single and Forced to Mingle. It is like a guidebook, basically, like part guidebook, like part commiseration with like some actual like thoughtful advice, but mostly just like a lot of like humor in it about the different facets of being single, and like why being single is really, really awesome, no matter what anybody says. So. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that covers it, hopefully.
It does. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was super fun. And again, for those of you who are not single, it's still really fun to read because I think it kind of talks a little bit about, it gives you that feeling like, again, it's things that we all deal with when your life basically gets reduced to one or two questions. And it's super funny. Again, there's a whole bit in there, like she was saying earlier, about how to keep up with movies and TV shows that you're not familiar with, and that's fantastic. It's really cute. I really enjoyed it, and we will make sure that we have links to it on all of our social media, so you guys can just click there and get your copy. And thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Courtney. This was so much fun.
Bodice Tipplers is part of the Frolic Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcast.